In an underworld hit, a college professor gets paralyzed. Then he takes his sweet time building an exosuit to, like, break some stuff. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network Shows. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick. Hello, everyone.
And this is our TV movie of the season.
It is, yes.
And much like TV movies we've covered in the past, it has a cast of thousands.
Maybe, yeah. It's many. I will say that, yes. A lot of familiar faces.
It's maybe not as, doesn't live up to its potential.
All right, well, I picked this one. You can blame me.
But I endorsed it.
I thought it looked very intriguing.
Yeah.
It was intriguing.
It was intriguing.
That is something I think that holds up to it. But yeah. Now, in fairness, the movie we picked, 1977's Exo-Man, we both watched it streaming in subpar quality.
Yeah.
Perhaps, you put this on a Blu-ray, with improved video and sound, maybe it would improve the overall quality of the movie.
Come on, Kino Lorber.
Yeah.
It's right up your alley.
It really is, actually.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised. There must be some kind of...
It's got to be Universal, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's got that look.
It's Universal. Yes, it's by Universal Pictures. It's got genre elements. Seems to me like somebody could put this out and sell it pretty easily, actually. So I'm surprised it's not out yet.
Either them or Shout.
Yeah.
So did you read about that in your book, right?
Actually, no. Well, I did after the fact.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where I got the idea. I think I was just looking for interesting movies of the era that maybe had... Well, you know what? It was actually one thing we haven't really talked about. We haven't talked about, kind of superheroes yet this season. This was sort of in that realm. And I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to kind of sneak in kind of a little bit more obscure, forgotten TV movie that sort of gets into the superhero field, since we don't have another one lined up.
Right. And at least when you suggested it, it looked like, well, this sort of be like the Iron Man movie that didn't happen. After seeing it, I don't think that's a fair representation of the material necessarily.
Yeah.
It's about as close as they got in 1977.
And I think one thing you have to keep in mind is this is a pilot. It was intended to be a series.
Yeah.
So it's not really a pure standalone movie. Having said that, I do think it's fair to say that if you're watching a movie called Exo-Man with this theme, that you would see Exo-Man sooner than, 70 minutes into the movie?
Yes.
Into an hour and, 30 minutes, just over 90-minute movie. So
right, yeah.
That is kind of a strike against it right off the bat, I think.
Yeah. So I believe we both watched a playlist that had it in about 10-minute chunks. And every now and then I'd kind of glance down at the thumbnails for the upcoming ones, just to see if Exo-Man was in any of them. And it, when he was in chapter 8 or whatever of 10.
Yeah, that's not good. You don't think that Iron Man movie would have been better served by having long scenes of Robert Downey Jr. actually crafting the suit? I mean, not a montage, but long scenes of him actually doing science and actually building things. And
right, like a whole number of scenes where before the suit was even an idea, where just like the whole arc reactor background.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than just Jeff Goldblum saying, that didn't work. Not Jeff Goldblum, Jeff Bridges, saying, Jeff Goldblum is saying that.
This movie could have used some Jeff Goldblum. It could have used a little something off-kilter.
Yes. It could have used Kevin McCarthy, who apparently is in it, according to IMDb.
Yeah, that's weird. I did not see Kevin McCarthy. I saw him in the cast list. Did not see him in the movie.
No, I believe someone else is playing the role, the DA role.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I don't know.
I was looking up the writers and the directors, and there's a not just in some of the themes, but there's an actual $6 Million Man connection. That Richard Irving was one of the producers and directors of that, and all the writers, including the story, was co-written by the guy who wrote the Cyborg novel that was based on.
I actually have a quote from that gentleman.
Oh,
this is from Lee Goldberg's great book Unsold TV Pilots, and he has an entry on Exo-Man, and I guess the man's name is Martin Kaiden, Caidin. Not quite sure how to pronounce that, but quote here is that Kaiden says the pilot, quote, was destroyed by the marketing people at Universal. They said you have to build the suit this way so it'll be easier to mass produce toys. They killed the damn thing, turned it into cardboard. We had a great show planned, but execution was And, that's kind of all there is about it. But so that guy thinks that they ruined the movie by shaping the actual exosuit in order to sell toys, that they thought it was going to be a big merchandise seller.
I wonder what it would have looked like
in
his vision.
Yeah, what was the original vision for it? I don't know.
I mean, of course, we're going to wait like 70 minutes before we tell you what it looks like.
Of course, yes. We've learned well.
Let's just say it wouldn't have been a toy that really sparked my imagination.
No, this doesn't look particularly toyetic, as they say to me, or kid-friendly. But did you see that apparently several years ago, the great Brick Mantooth posted on Twitter a picture of an action figure that some company made? He said, and he joked about how, what great times we are when somebody's actually made. I followed the link. I saw the picture, followed the link, and the company that sold it at one point, I don't think sells anymore. It's some kind of vinyl toy of the X. And I will say, after watching the movie, mocking it, being disappointed with it, when I saw that picture, I kind of wanted that toy.
You know what I think would be a good toy?
What's that?
Version, like a bendy.
A bendy, yeah. There you go.
It's about the speed, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I would not have thought that executives meddled with this. If anything, it seems like some executive should have gotten in and sped it up and made it more exciting. So I don't get this, but hey, I'm just reporting what the guy said.
You know what kids like? College professors.
Yeah. Physics professors especially.
Yes.
You don't see enough because you might expect on TV or in movies you're usually inspired by literature professors or people in the liberal arts, not necessarily a physics professor, but this guy's passionate about it.
Oh yes, yeah, and you can tell other than one of his students who's sleeping for reasons that have nothing to do with the class, that his students are enraptured with what he's saying.
Yeah, the wonderful world of physics.
Yes.
And if this movie could do for physics, what Professor Nick does for physics, but I don't think it does, unfortunately. That's the real shame here, Mike, is not that we lost an exciting superhero movie, that, the nation's youth missed out on a chance to be exposed and getting into physics. The STEM could have been a whole big thing back in 1977.
Yeah, my notes during those sequences were very similar to my notes in college physics. Just like, class.
Yeah, well,
I could tell something important was that he was saying something that might apply to the plot later. But since it was couched in physics, I was sort of just like, I know this is important.
I hear you on that. And the thing too is, like in this particular story, there's really not much done. It's very mundane what he even does with the suit. Even everything about it is mundane. Like him learning to use the suit is mundane. What he actually does with it, his goals. There's just no real exciting anything in this.
I don't know. Seeing Jose Ferrer get a haircut was pretty exciting.
All right, I will grant you that. Yes.
Speaking of him, let's just go through this cast really quickly.
Yes.
Because it is kind of, to people who do a podcast about 70s and 80s TV, it's an exciting cast.
Yeah. This is the thing, too. Besides the premise, I saw the names in the cast. It's like, hey, look who's all's in this. Hey, how can you go wrong with this?
Top of the line, David Aykroyd.
Yes, David Aykroyd.
From, brother of Dan Aykroyd, Joel Aykroyd.
Wait, what? No. I think
Brian Doyle Aykroyd.
I think you got that wrong, Mike. I'm afraid you got the wrong family. I don't even think he's in the wrong family that you're referring to there.
David Aykroyd, steady worker.
I'll tell you what I remember David Aykroyd from most notably is Gary Ewing, the character that anchored Knots Landing. David Aykroyd was the original Gary Ewing.
I saw that.
Now, when they went to Knots Landing, David Aykroyd could not do it because he was doing a series for NBC. I think it was maybe a mini-series or a version of Little Women or something.
Okay.
He was Joe.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who he was in Little Women, but he couldn't get out of that commitment. So he lost out on Knots Landing, which ran for like 14 years.
Yeah.
So tough break for him.
What's the guy? Ted Shackelford?
Ted Shackelford, yes. And, the rest is history there. So
yeah.
But when the characters they introduced, of course, on Dallas, and it was David Aykroyd. So
that is a tough break. Seem to have a lot of guest starring roles, voice acting.
Oh, yeah. They've been very, very steady workers, you say.
Yeah. So he plays Nick Conrad, Dr. Nick Conrad.
Dr. Nick.
Hey, everybody. A.K.A. Exo-Man. Ann Sheedon from Alf and Emergency. Is that her other?
Yeah, I don't think she was on there that long, but she did have a role on that and a couple of other things. But I'd say she's probably best known now for Alf.
Yeah. As his girlfriend, Emily Frost.
That's a cool name.
It is, yeah. Almost Emma Frost.
Yeah, it is. No real similarities.
Working out the timeline. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't know exactly when.
Think there's a connection?
No, I don't think so. A. Martinez as Raphael.
That's another cool name.
Yes. Formerly of Search. among other things.
Yeah.
Yes, another long-standing character actor.
Yes.
He's Nick's favorite student. I assumed he would become his wingman in the Exo-Man situation, but that never happened.
Yeah, Nick kind of keeps pushing him away.
Yeah, I bet on the series he does. But it seems like he would be useful.
Yeah, he does take advantage of his connections and kind of leans on him a little bit. But you're right, they're not. He hasn't quite reached sidekick status yet. But
yeah, but I mean, they've got the setup. They've got potential sidekick, girlfriend who's in on what's going on.
Yeah.
Government guy and a cool van.
Mm-hmm. The Exo-mobile, as I like to call it.
And a lab.
Yeah, Exo-lab, as I like to call it.
The Exo-lab.
And one more thing is an apparent total lack of oversight by anybody at anybody else at his university or with the government or whatever. He's pretty much got free reign to do whatever he wants with all this lab equipment apparently.
Yes.
So that's an advantage when you're not independently wealthy. Like I guess he's not. He seems to live pretty comfortably.
He lives okay. It's a little hard to tell where they are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the...
of course, I was assuming it was L.A. because it was filmed in L.A., but then, Emily's later got to run up to Boston.
Yeah, I thought it was New York, actually. But, yeah, it's 1970s Universal, so who knows? I guess I thought it was New York. I'm not sure why particularly. Just some of the way just sort of the urban landscape looked a little bit more New Yorkish to me.
I decided it was Florida because there was a palm tree.
Oh, okay. That would distinguish Exo-Man.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have clarified this once it went to series.
I'm sure, yeah. And some of the guest stars include previously mentioned Jose Ferrer as wealthy something. Kermit Haas.
Yes, an industrialist, is it fair to say? With a shady industrialist? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know if he's an industrialist.
Yeah.
But he's shady.
He's definitely shady. Great Jack Colvin as Martin, apparently, is his name.
Yeah.
I thought I heard him call him Sid once, but...
Oh, really?
I didn't... I had to look that up later.
Yeah, great Jack Colvin, sort of like the second in command.
Yes,
but
consigliere.
Yes, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. And shout out to our consigliere, Carrie, by the way.
Yes.
Fortunately, we haven't needed to use her services much yet, but just everybody out there, she's there. Don't push us. But I thought Jack Colvin was very underused in this.
Yes. Yeah, it was another disappointment.
Yeah.
Dennis Moffat. Dennis? Is it?
Donald Moffat.
That's what I wrote. That's not what it looks like. It looks like Dennis on the page here.
Dennis?
Yes, Dennis. Donald Moffat and his amazing eyebrows.
Ah, yes.
As a colleague at the university.
Mm-hmm.
I like it at one point. He's like, oh, I guess what you're doing is for the military or something, right?
Yeah.
I guess I can't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he kind of like took him out of the running for knowing more about it.
Yeah.
Kind of let him off the hook. And I expected this Donald Moffat character was surprisingly unaggressive. Mm-hmm. He was not he didn't really push things as much as you might expect him to.
Yeah. Yeah, he just seemed like a genius.
Yeah.
And the great Harry Morgan as the government guy, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, presumably, wasn't he already on MASH?
Yes, I believe he was.
Just about to join MASH.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. I hadn't thought about this.
77.
This is 1977 would have been MASH about, yeah.
It's about the time he joined MASH.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not sure what this could have been made. So this aired June 1977.
Oh, so
it's possible that they didn't buy it as a series and then maybe it was made like in 76 or something.
Yeah, but somebody else could have played that role. Didn't need it. Harry Morgan's fine.
They could have had McLean Stevenson play this role. The shrewd, government agent.
Right.
And Harry Morgan brings a lot of energy to this role, actually.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot to do, but just seeing him is cool.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sure it would have been developed if the series went along, but
right.
he enlivens the movie, definitely.
Yeah, I imagined it as where his Dragnet character ended up.
Ah, okay.
After his police days working for the governor.
Yeah.
Some criminal task force or whatever.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah, and you don't get a whole lot of detail about where he's from or anything, but he's got connections apparently.
And that's something you don't get on TV shows a lot. Criminal task force run by the governor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Like this kind of show, it's usually a Fed.
I think on Hawaii Five-0,
I
think McGarrett reported to the governor somehow, but
because they're
but that's not quite the same because he's regular Popo in a sense.
But they cover the whole state. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this isn't something. See, another great idea for Exo-Man. Until those suits got in it and wanted to make Harry Morgan action figures, and they changed the character.
Right. Little did they know there would be a Harry Morgan action figure later,
but for a different show.
Yeah.
After MASH.
Yeah. After MASH. That's right. Oh, those are so good.
His After MASH action figures.
Yeah. If only Mego hadn't gone under.
Yeah.
With the special Walter Chase variant.
Yeah.
So you said this aired in June. What else?
Yes. So June 18th, 1977. Good time.
Boy, yeah.
Lot going on.
Bad time to do a slightly science fiction, cheap-looking science fiction TV show.
Yeah, I guess in a sense, it is.
Star Wars is in the theater.
So what? Yeah, when was Star Wars was released? Like
late May.
Okay, so maybe this was sitting on the shelf.
Yeah,
and that's why they've trod this one out. Maybe they weren't really in any hurry to run it at all. And then, well, let's burn it off in June.
Let's get this thing on the air.
Yeah, yeah. Would they have had troubles rushing Exo-Man action figures to the market because they weren't quite ready?
Well, they already had the mold.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. Okay, so June 18th, 1977, we had on NBC Exo-Man. Just, And then at 10 o'clock, this is interesting, Mike, the Photoplay Gold Medal Awards. Now, I don't believe we've talked about this, but the Photoplay Awards predated the Oscars. The Photoplay magazine, long-running, screen magazine. And they apparently gave out these awards many years and had a television ceremony. And it was supposed to be like the People's Awards. So people would vote on, like, readers of Photoplay magazine. And Angie Dickinson and Elliot Gould co-hosted this event. It was not live. I think this is an edited-down version. And according to my information, Paul Williams made an appearance on this show, so I want to see that now.
Yeah.
I wonder who won. I guess it was probably the timing. Star Wars probably didn't win the award, but it would have been the kind of show maybe designed to give Star Wars that award. Maybe I think Rocky was the year before.
Yeah.
So might have been that kind of thing. But they also gave awards for TV. Over the years, they added TV and things like that. So, and interesting, I was reading an article I'll link to that I'm glad I read this because the Wikipedia page, I think it has the Photoplay Awards ending in the 60s. And then this article I read specifically says the Wikipedia page has it ending in the 60s, but they continued to give out awards for years. And this is a pretty good evidence that they devoted an hour of primetime television to it. So again, Wikipedia, got to clean that up, folks. ABC had Wonder Woman, Starsky and Hutch, and the Feather and Father Gang. This was a show, Stephanie Powers, before Heart to Heart, was in this, with Harold Gould. So she was an attorney who sort of formed like some unofficial task force or group. Harold Gould was a con man, and he had his crew of ne'er-do-wells would help her, investigate and solve crimes. It lasted 13 episodes.
He was her dad.
Yeah. CBS had a classic lineup, all reruns though. Mary Tyler Moore Show, Bob Newhart, All in the Family, Alice, Carol Burnett at 10. So there you go. So you got a night of reruns, night of action adventure on ABC, and Exo-Man on NBC.
Right.
Possibly contending for the 1978 Photoplay Awards, Exo-Man.
Yes, and it opens with a couple who we later learn are Nick and Emily jogging, and there's some guy. There are all sorts of people jogging. It's like, I guess it's the jogging trail. It's where you go in this town. Everybody goes to jog, and of course it's the 70s, so jogging,
big thing.
Yeah, second to disco.
Yeah.
He wants to overtake this other guy. So, it's a little bit of characterization, and he does. But as he's running, he runs past a sign for a bridle trail. And then we get the other part of the story. We meet Jose Ferrer and Jack Colvin wearing some magnificent sunglasses.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure they're men's sunglasses, but...
Yeah, I don't know either, but...
They look like something, I don't know, like that Ethel Merman would wear. Or
wow.
Someone of that ilk in that era.
Okay, yeah.
They're big, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, good call, yeah.
And he's a little concerned that there's a group from Chicago that's come to do some sort of work for them, which is, on TV, that's not a good sign.
Yeah,
right there.
guys from Chicago, you know there's trouble.
One of them is Dominic. He's one of them, and he's a sort of nervous type, but his uncle set this up, so Haas wants to be loyal to that. He gets on the car phone and says, send the package. And we see the package arrive. It's some food from a local place, and these three guys, Dom and a couple other guys, they get out the food, and then underneath there's a bunch of guns and blueprints of a bank.
How about that, huh?
Yeah.
I have enough trouble getting them to deliver the breadsticks with the
Right.
pizza.
Yes.
Let alone remembering to bring guns and floor plans for a bank.
Would you like some blueprints with your sandwich? Yes. Then we get the first physics class, and Nick and... This was the thing, not really knowing David Aykroyd by look. I wasn't sure that was the same guy, and then I was like, was that running scene? Was that just like a... Because Anne Sheehan hadn't quite put together who she was, and she's much younger and brunette.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like a middle-class mom yet.
Right. And, and again, in not seeing this in pristine quality doesn't help it either. Yeah.
But it is him, and he's teaching his class, and he's talking about, very passionately, as you said, about he's working on a way to harness UV rays that one day he's going to use them for energy to move objects and something like that.
Fascinating work. And he invokes Maxwell's equation. That's one of my favorite equations, really.
That's Maxwell Smart's equation?
I believe it was Maxwell Klinger's equation he's talking about here.
But would you believe Maxwell Coffee's equation?
You know, whichever Maxwell it was, it's a heck of an equation.
Right.
And Nick breaks it down so easily. It's almost like he wasn't even teaching it, really. I couldn't really explain it to you, but it's in there somewhere inside me. Great equation.
And his overall goal is to learn from nature and then improve on it.
Yeah, that learning from nature is good, but improving on it, you're starting to get into sketchy territory there. I worried a little bit about that.
Yeah. And then we meet A. Martinez's character, Raphael, who's been sleeping in class, and it's because he's got a job that his family needs. And so he's working late, and then whatever, it takes him a long time to get home. And so Nick is going to co-sign for a loan so he doesn't have to work anymore.
Yeah, boy, what a great guy.
Yeah. It turns out Nick has a lab with lab assistants. I don't know, maybe he could have given him a job there.
Yeah, that's
like, maybe that's a financial aid situation. And those people get assigned. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
Or maybe he's not a graduate student yet. So
yeah. Well, Nick finds a solution. Kind of going across some boundaries here, but doing the right thing.
Plus, it's going to get him in the bank.
Oh, that's true.
And then later, we're in his lab. Emily's there, and his assistants, Eddie and Jim. And he's talking about racing this guy earlier, and Emily's drawing him, so we learn that she's an artist. And then lunch is over. She's going to teach, and they get to their work, which involves an electron microscope. Someone saying the exo-electron threshold is good. I have no idea what that meant.
Well, I could explain that, but I don't want to bog down our listeners in science details, but it's pretty clear, if you know what to look for. But they did a good job explaining that.
Yeah, I was just glad he used the word exo.
Yeah, right. They established that very early. Yes, you're right.
And he gets on the case of Eddie, who didn't label the last batch. There's some formula they used to work with this. And they remind him to pay attention to details. So they put it on this weight. They could have weight with it and then fire UV rays, the most stunning of all the visual rays on TV. That's
yes, good point.
The ones we can't see.
Yeah.
But be it rest assured.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there.
And they're spectacular.
But it doesn't work.
I believe it was here where Professor Nick, he tells his assistants to stop treating research like voodoo.
Yes.
Well said.
Right. Everybody knows the worst part of voodoo practitioners is their lack of taking notes.
Yeah. Because if you can't replicate a voodoo spell, what good is it?
Yeah. Right. Then later, he's at the bank with Raphael, finishing up the loan. It happens to be closing time, and then the guys we saw, Dom and these other guys, rob the bank, and there's a big shootout, and Nick can't help himself. He gets involved, and he chases Dom on foot and manages to catch him.
Yeah, it was impressive. He comes running out of the bank. I mean, this guy gets involved in his students' lives. He gets involved in, the citizens' arrests.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out the spectacularly ineffective disguises these guys put on, these prophylactic looking devices they put on their heads. The stockings really do very little to obscure their faces. All it does is it muffles their voices and makes it harder for the tellers to understand what they're asking for, I think. And also in the bank, there's lots of people, like the guards and stuff, are perfectly willing to open fire on them and risk all the people in there. Right. We know what their real priority is. It's not like the civilians in there. It's trying to save the money, I guess.
I'd counter that these robbers are so confident that they could have done it without the mask. Because they already know. We see witness intimidation.
That's right.
They've got the tools to get through any of this.
They do. Right when Nick has the guy's basically telling him, what good is this going to do? I'm going to be walking the streets, and doesn't he say you're going to be a dead man, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. So he's been caught and he didn't care. Yeah, these guys are pretty brazen.
And then we go to Kermit, Mr. Haas's mansion, an impressive mansion, more impressive than the Hart mansion.
I think you're right. This looks like a
proper
a real spread, for a guy with a lot of wealth.
And Colvin comes in. First thing Haas says to him is, the Gutenberg Bible's being auctioned this morning. We got to make sure we get it at a good price. And he doesn't want to be outbid though. And because Dominic's uncle means so much to him, they're going to have to take care of this witness. He must be eliminated.
How cool and calculating Kermit Haas is.
Later, Nick and Emily are playing tennis, and Emily's been nervous. She feels like she's being watched, and turns out she's right.
Yeah, she's got good instincts.
Yeah, and they go home to Nick's apartment, and someone's watching them from a rooftop. Later, there's another class, and he's demonstrating this material that's sort of a plasticky material that can be folded into different shapes and retain all its energy. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I was kind of thinking when I saw this, I was like, wait, is this like an unstable molecules kind of thing or something? But again, Exo-Man does not want to just like throw these at you. They want to lay the foundation.
That's right. They want to ground it in real physics.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe this is a real thing. I didn't understand it at all.
It's refreshing to admit that, isn't it? Yeah, I don't either.
There's something about it conducting energy, too.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. We're in the lab, and things aren't going well because Eddie messed up the batch. And, Nick's a little on edge, but he apologizes. And he leaves them to make a new batch. Get it right this time. And then he goes to his car, and Raphael's hiding in the back seat to prove that he needs protection.
Yeah.
His cousin's a cop. He knows he needs protection. And Nick's like, well, I talked to the cops, and they said, the guy's in jail. There's no need for it.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? Come on.
Yeah. Then he leaves, and he's being followed. Then we're at the lab again, and Eddie offers to make a pizza run in Nick's chariot.
Yeah, and if we ever talked about this before, he asked him, like, with or without, like, anchovies. Is TV the only place where people get anchovies on pizza?
I think so.
I've never seen anybody actually get anchovies in my life. But in TV, apparently it's a big thing.
My brother did once to try it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, I can see that, but it used to be like this big regular thing where every character would ask somebody else if it had anchovies or something like that. And that was just their way of establishing pizza reality or something like that. Like, oh, okay, they're actually going to get a pizza. They're doing the anchovy question.
Yeah. And, they're getting ready to do a test, and they hear an explosion. And poor Eddie. Gone in Nick's car.
He didn't deserve that.
He certainly didn't.
He made a few mishaps in the lab, but certainly didn't deserve this. He's going to get pizza. Jeez, this guy was doing a great service.
Yeah. And then Colvin talking to Haas, or at the mansion, and he gets on the phone and finds out that Nick hasn't left home since Eddie died. And then the trial's in 4 days, so they're doubling the price. And luckily for them, we see Nick, he's talking to this DA, and he's fed up with waiting around. He's going to make himself bait. You don't see that often, and
No.
quite often you make some other character.
Yeah.
The cops maybe would have suggested that.
Right.
They're like, no.
Guy's a man of action.
Yeah, but he wants to make sure Emily's protected, kept away from him. And then, like, the next scene we see him, they're not just protecting him. I mean, it's like half the police force. He's got 2 cops with him.
Well, yeah.
Like he goes, they're going to go jog with him, but first he puts the laundry in the wash.
Yeah.
You can tell he's a man of science. He's got this worked out. The wash cycle takes whatever.
Right.
I can do a jog in that time. I'd be back just in time to put everything in the dryer.
Yes. Interesting decision to jog before do your laundry before you jog. But works for him.
Yeah.
And, when they go jogging, Mike, I had a brief fear that jogging was going to be to this movie as bike riding was going to be to pray for the Wildcats.
Yes.
We didn't quite get there, but
No. In fact, they cut to the end of that pretty quickly, didn't they?
Yeah.
But he's racing back in and gets ahead of them, and he's putting his stuff in the dryer. One of the cops comes in and gets whacked on the head with a pipe, and then Nick gets hit in the back with a pipe. It's painful.
Like it does look painful.
Yeah.
Not crippling, I would say, but
No.
it does look painful.
Yeah.
Kind of right in the small of the back with a pipe, and it's not even. It's a solid blow.
Yeah.
But then that's it.
Yeah. I wonder if the guy heard the other cops coming and figured he'd better get out of there.
He does seem to like tower over him just for a second, like thinking something's going through his mind.
Like maybe I should hit him in the head.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he might have seen something that, me as a lay person in the audience, I would not think that would be that decisive a blow. But maybe this guy's a hired goon,
He's a pro. Yeah.
He would know. So maybe he just, I guess I did enough. I can get out of here.
Maybe his laundry was done.
That's right.
Yeah.
you know how annoying it is to wait around in a laundromat or laundry room for, after your stuff's done. So I guess my point is I was a little disappointed by this. Is a life-changing injury. The scene could have been a little bit more spectacular.
Right. It could have been like a gunshot to the back or something.
Yeah, I was surprised. Why did they not use just a, we've established that this crew is not averse to using guns.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense to me. It seems to me like if you're, I don't know. I just don't know. It's a little flat.
But it is indeed a life-changing injury.
Yeah.
He's got paralysis from the waist down. And that's where we get hints of this, the connections to $6 Million Man. He's got this injury. I mean, he's not dying, but he might have to use technology. He might have the technology.
Yes.
At Haas's, he's watching the news, and they say that the judge and the jury are going to take a little field trip to the hospital so Nick can testify there. And even the Dom is going to have to be there, too. Just like some Perry Mason episodes.
Yeah,
they take a field trip.
It's elaborate. That shows you the importance of this case, that they're going to these lengths.
Yeah, they really want this guy.
Yeah.
And so later the DA is there prepping him, and they gets a phone call, someone who says he's Emily's brother. And Nick takes it, clearly knowing Emily doesn't have a brother. And it's Colvin who threatens Emily. Just like that, Nick bails. He's scared, but he's not going to risk her.
Yeah, he does not want to participate, not going to testify. He's quitting.
There's that case down the drain. Guess that disguise was good enough.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe they didn't have Kirk cameras back then. And then the next scene, Emily is ringing Nick's doorbell, but Nick is in a funk, and we know this even before we see him, because much like Anchovies telling us about pizza, the formerly clean apartment now with laundry everywhere,
right?
Empty KFC boxes.
Yes, that's right.
You know something's bad.
The telltale signs of emotional disarray.
Yes, there he is. With another telltale sign, 5 o'clock shadow.
Yep. He's got this whole brooding demeanor. Yep, you're right.
Sitting in his wheelchair, he won't let her in. He won't even answer. That's sad. Later, the TV news again reveals that Dominic's been released, and Nick, he's fed up again. He wheels outside. And he's just kind of, I don't know, in his own mind, he almost gets hit by a car. Luckily, though, Raphael was coming by.
That was very fortunate.
Yes.
I guess Raphael was keeping an eye on him.
Well, he was coming to see him about something. And he takes him to his lab and brings in a rollaway bread, and Nick's going to work. And he has a little bit of an auditory flashback to Eddie's accident. Or not accident, but death. And then one day he's at the end of class, and Harry Morgan pops by. And his name is Arthur Travis. He said he's from the governor's anti-crime division. And he has a mug book, which he leaves with Nick, and he wants them to see if he can identify the guy who attacked him. But they're not because they're going to prosecute him or anything. It's more just gathering information.
Yeah, very low key. No pressure.
Right. And, Nick acts like, probably not going to. And then as soon as Travis leaves, he finds the picture, right away.
Yeah, and it fills him with something.
Yes.
And by the way, I guess none of the authorities are doing anything about Eddie's murder.
Apparently not.
That was, they totally had no case on that one, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they could have tied that in somehow, but nope.
Nope. And back in the lab, Jim comes by, but Nick's pretty much, well, you need to go find a different assignment.
Yeah. Jim seems like a good hand. He lands on his feet, I'm sure, but...
Yeah. So he tells him he's going to be down the hall in the lab supply room, and then he locks the door behind him, and he gets to work. And he's using the last batch that Eddie made, and it works. Ultraviolet light moves this weight. And he calls Jim, and of course Jim doesn't know what Eddie did. Eddie didn't take notes, but Nick doesn't bother telling him why he's calling.
He doesn't.
Yeah. And then there's a scene on campus, and Raphael's pushing Nick in his wheelchair, and bringing a message from Emily that she's not going to come looking for Nick again, but he has to come to her. And then it's also the last day of her art show, The Art of Emily Frost. And Nick goes in by himself. And he's looking around at everything. It seems like she does it all.
Yeah.
Portraits, abstracts.
Yeah, very well-rounded artist. That's true.
Yeah.
She's got possibly the showcase piece is a giant portrait of Nick.
Yeah. And he hears her arrive. She's talking to the docent about some sales she's made, and so he hides behind some suits of armor.
Ah.
Yes. And while he's there, he starts feeling the chainmail.
Yeah.
Like a tailor feeling some cloth. I don't know, a baker feeling some, like a candlestick make. Anyway, he's getting an idea.
Yes, and it's kind of like a good Rankin Bass moment too. Oh, so that's how he got the idea for armor. Yes. That's right.
And we see him, doing some stuff in the lab.
Yeah, but at least he's like focused now.
Yes. Yeah, he does. He uses some of that plastic stuff I was talking about earlier, and he coats it with the formula, and he folds it up, and he sticks it, but wedges it between two desks, and then he applies the UV light, and the desks fly apart.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened.
Yes.
And oh yeah, there was an ad for the thrifty white sale.
Yeah, a random ad here in this.
Yes.
Most of this YouTube presentation did not have original ads, but here is one that was an exception for some reason.
It seemed like a replay of this, maybe, right?
Yeah, I think it was. It was like an afternoon matinee theater or something like that. So it wasn't the original broadcast. No.
And then Nick is getting various items from his colleagues, little bits and pieces of things, and we meet Wallace, who we mentioned earlier, and he's like, "We're trying to figure out what you're building." And he's, "What indeed?"
Yeah, and when Wallace raises an eyebrow to that question, it says something when it's Donald Moffat.
Yes, when Donald Moffat raises an eyebrow, people listen.
Yeah.
He's in the lab. He's like, working on some stuff, but he hides it when Raphael shows up. And he brought a pot of food from his mom. And Nick asks him to ask his cousin about the guy from the book, Emil Horst. And he wants to know everything, what he does, where he goes, where he lives.
Where he takes his women.
Where he takes
it, something like that, too. I mean, whoa. It's everything.
And after Raphael leaves, he puts the stuff he was working on, this material that he's coated, wraps it around his feet, and uses a harness to lift himself out of his wheelchair, and then uses the UV light, and he's able to walk.
Yeah.
That's pretty, and he's delighted.
Oh, yes. You might even say giddy.
Yes, you might.
I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Okay.
He's downright giddy.
He is. I said it later. I have it in my notes later. Another instance where he's giddy.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe.
But I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to. If David Aykroyd was building up to giddiness later, I don't want to, take away from his performance here. He might have had another gear later, but
right.
He's definitely delighted.
There's a scene where Emily's jogging, and Nick's waiting for her, and he says, "I feel like a dope." This is a question.
Okay.
If someone recognizes that they're acting like a dope, does that disqualify them for the biggest dope category of the baddies?
That is an intriguing question, is it not? I don't know.
Something for the committee to consider.
Yeah, that is something we will have to consider. I don't know. That's food for thought.
I mean, I agree with him in terms of relating with his dealings with her after his accident. He is being kind of a dope.
Yeah, and I think he was being a dope, just generally pushing people aside.
Yes.
He had his reasons, but yeah, you're asking me right now, I'd say I think he could still be eligible.
Okay.
Being a dope is not necessarily a permanent condition. And he's quite a dope for the time of this movie. And it's a pretty good stretch of this movie that he is a dope. We got like 94 minutes of this, so
yeah.
I think he's got enough dope to be eligible, but we will have to consider that later, yes.
Yeah, but they have a happy reunion and a nice little bit of filmmaking in the background. Haas rides by on his horse.
Ah, yes.
Later at his lab, a nurse is wrapping his chest up in plaster, and he makes it seem like it's for some sort of art project.
Yeah. She seems like chatty, like she's just happy for the company, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. She has no problem, whatever it's for.
She's tired of dealing with students' communicable diseases. You want me to wrap you in plaster? Sure.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that, but...
And Wallace comes by because Nick needs some information on theoretical mechanics, specifically the math of human motion, which Wallace is humbly modest about. He's certainly an expert in the field. And he also, he's fishing for information.
Yeah.
Like we already mentioned that. Oh, and then as he's leaving, the guys bring in this barrel of some sort of liquid that is, and he's like, "Isn't that the stuff that's bulletproof?"
Yeah, it was a very specific reaction to seeing that.
Yeah. And we see Nick, I guess he's buying this van, but it's like a delivery van, but it has a lift, a wheelchair lift.
So it's good enough to be the Exo-Man.
Yes. And then there's a bit of a sort of montage, I guess, of him making the suit. Later, Raphael brings him the information he needs. Of course, he won't let him help, but he does tell him. He gives him a key, and there's a journal in a cabinet in case something happens to him.
Ah, yes.
And then he calls some dude named Freddie, who turns out is a gallery owner in Boston who immediately gives Emily a show for a week.
Yeah, well, I guess the Boston art scene was very open back in the late 70s.
Right.
Very accepting of newcomers.
There's another visit from Harry Morgan at the lab, and Nick lies and says he doesn't know who he was. And Travis is like, well, even if we got him, it's not the biggest deal because the guy he's working for is still out there. And that's Kermit Haas.
Yeah.
And then Nick kind of brushes him off. But he leaves his card. And Nick looks at a list of addresses and chooses which one he's going to go to. And I thought he was just going to stake out Emil.
I thought so too, yeah.
And his inconspicuous van.
Yeah.
He pulls right into his driveway and threatens him.
He really does.
And then we see him pulling into this garage in like kind of a seedy part of town.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a garage he's rented, and Emil followed him. I mean, it's what he wanted. He wanted to make him, again, he's making himself bait.
It's a weird way to do it, but I mean, I guess it works. And there's some nice Exo jazz playing in some of this stuff, too.
There's some pretty cool music. And while Emil is in the alley, and then he breaks into the garage, and finally get to the suiting up.
Yeah.
Which Nick turns on all these computers in the back, and then he has it's like a mold.
It really is.
It's got a top, it's got a bottom, it's got cavities, and he manages to climb in and lie down in it and seal himself up in it.
It reminded me of the Play-Doh things, like the Star Wars Play-Doh molds you could use to make like little Darth Vaders.
Yeah, and it came out about as well.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, it looks kind of like a suit.
It's kind of like a mix between that and like a tanning bed,
Yeah.
I just like the way he kind of goes in and out of it and the mold thing. And yeah, but at least we're about, I wrote down we're about 75 minutes in at this point, 3/4 into the movie.
And after a good deal of cross-cutting, he finally emerges. So it is red and silver, which the red does make it look a little bit Iron Man-y.
Yeah.
But that's about where it ends.
Yeah, there's no effort to make it like aerodynamic looking or anything.
No. It's I don't know how to even just kind of bullet shaped. I mean, that's aerodynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, the head is for some reason very large.
Right.
And just
there's some bullet-esque features of the costume.
Yes,
see that.
That has a big pane of like plexiglass.
Yeah.
To look out of, and they cut inside sometimes, which is that's kind of interesting because they did that better, but in the Iron Man movies, like the heads up thing where you're in the helmet with them, and I have heard comics writers talking about how the movie cracked how to be in his helmet like that, and then they started using that in the comics.
That's
it's interesting. But Exo-Man did it in 1977.
Yes, way ahead of the game.
Yeah,
that was cool. You can kind of see him reacting to stuff and figuring things out. Those are good shots. That was well done.
And then, Emil opens the van right as he pops out, and then he runs, and Nick lumbers after him.
Yes, and isn't that one of the most iconic shots that you've seen in recent? And we see it a couple times. Is Nick doing a little hop out of the van? It's there's nothing dynamic about that.
No,
it's really kind of lame. Let's face it. I mean, he just takes a little hop and then starts lumbering. I mean,
And Emil shoots him, and of course that bounces off because bulletproof liquid.
Yeah, and one thing they do is a couple times, like in the movie, they take you inside and show him. So he sort of winces a little bit.
Yeah,
like he's sort of feeling something. That was a nice little touch.
And as he's pursuing him, he starts to have a bunch of power failures and things. And he did set up little lights and things and label them all, so he knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we know you got to keep notes and label everything.
That's right.
But Emil ends up like climbing up a drain pipe, and he gets to the top, and the bricks of the building are not in good condition, and he falls off and dies.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And Nick almost dies.
Yeah.
He runs out of oxygen and collapses. Now, I understand that his legs stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. I mean, when he's in the suit, does the suit control, like, does he not have any control over his motor functions?
I don't know.
Because he can't even use his arms. Like,
right.
Like, he's got little buttons on his arms that do different things. And,
right. But he can't, like, seemingly can't. Until later, though, he does, like, it's like, why doesn't he just open up the...
No, the homeless guy does that.
Right. But it's like, why can't he?
Why can't he
just
reach over? Yeah.
Right. Well, he's still learning.
Right.
That was a big flaw, a design flaw.
Yes. Oh, maybe I shouldn't give over my entire mechanical design control to the suit.
And one thing here too is, did you notice when he was getting the flashing warnings that if you go back and look, one of the flashing signs said malfunction, not malfunction, malfunction.
That he was in a state.
Yeah.
He was eating some Funyuns. The vending machine down the hall.
Yeah, he must have. Maybe Eddie wrote that one down.
Yeah.
But it was at that moment watching this that I was like, this may not be a lost hidden gem that I'd hoped it would be. And they closer right. I take another look at it because they zero right in on it. It's pretty prominent.
I think we're going to have to get a screen grab of that one.
Yes, I think so. But and it's an interesting creative choice to have the ML basically die on his own, rather and Exo-Man hardly doing anything. Well, I mean, he chases him up there, but or intimidates him up there,
right?
And hey, wouldn't you be intimidated by Exo-Man lumbering at you?
Well, I mean, maybe.
And of course,
it's like, what is that thing?
And I like the fact that you chase the guy, as it were, you're chasing him, and you can't like possibly hope to outrun him or go around him. The only way to go is up.
Yeah.
Trapped like a rat.
Right. And later, this homeless guy named Larry, or not homeless, I don't know.
He may have been. I thought at first he sort of looked like he was kind of doing the...
Yeah, but then later Nick asks him where he lives, and he said, I don't think I should tell you that. Okay.
It was a weird interaction between those two.
Yes. Yeah, he's a little freaked out by what he finds this thing, and then he's got like a broomstick, and he starts poking buttons, and the glass opens, and Nick explains that he needs help, and all he has to do is turn a knob on his leg, which Larry reluctantly does.
Yeah.
Then he runs away.
Yeah, I don't blame Larry for being a little...
Yeah.
If Nick could only have, he was trained, if he could only have communicated as clearly as he does in the classroom, he might have been able to get across everything he needed to Larry. But, he was exhausted. Batteries had run out.
Listen, I was jogging, and then I took a student to the bank, and I had to make a suit.
You know what he should have said to Larry? He should have said, I got 2 words for you, kid. Maxwell's equation. And Larry's eyes would, okay, say no more. I'll help you out.
Maybe it's the Maxwell who got the silver hammer. Wasn't he a science student? Later, he's at home, and Emily shows up. She's not in Boston, and she knows something's going on. She realized that, he set this up for her to be gone.
Yeah.
And, in a turn you wouldn't get in a lot of superhero things, especially back then. He just tells her what's going on.
Yeah, I like that.
And he's feeling guilty about Emil dying. He just wanted to put the fear of Exo-Man in.
I actually like that, too.
Yeah.
That was a nice character touch, that this had an effect on him.
Yeah, it wasn't so much vengeance. I mean, it was justice. It was about justice, not vengeance.
I mean, we talked about how it was bizarre that he went right to the guy's, house and confronted him like that and threatened him. But it doesn't mean he can't have, this kind of reaction to seeing the guy die.
You're right.
I thought that they handled that part pretty well. That was interesting.
Yeah, and then he goes to Kermit's house, to Haas's house. He suits up, and God bless him, we get all that footage again.
Yeah, we do.
I like how when the thing opens, it's like he inflates.
Yeah.
And I can imagine if this were a series like that, you would get that scene every time.
I think you're right. Yeah, totally.
Rather than just getting him in the suit, we got to go through that.
It's like Wonder Woman spinning. Mm-hmm. You got to see that, or people feel cheated. Or is the hop out of the van like the Wonder Woman spinning? That you have to see that a couple times an episode.
Yeah. And he tears through an electric fence, and they get a security alert inside, and some security guys come out in a Jeep, and they have guns, and he takes care of both of those.
Yeah.
The guns are useless, and the Jeep is, again, a classic superhero thing, too. Him grabbing the bumper, and the Jeep's tires spinning and all of that. But he does a good job. This scene was a lot more exciting than the other one.
Yeah, isn't this the scene where a guy, goes flying out of it? Like, they kind of crash into him, and a guy, goes butt over tea kettle out of the Jeep.
Yeah.
We laughed out loud at that one. That was pretty cool.
And then Haas is inside, and he smashes through the wall Kool-Aid Man style.
He does. It's exactly what he does. And Haas, just decides to go to the most interior room in the house, I guess.
That's a vault.
And what's Exo-Man's plan here? I guess because there's no big building that Haas can. What does he really learn here? What's he going to do with Haas? I'm not quite sure when he busts in.
I don't know. Yeah, did he have? What ends up happening is he chases him into the vault and then breaks through the metal wall and then leans over and picks up some ledgers and leaves.
Yeah, those ledgers. It's very anticlimactic. I mean, he literally just picks up the ledgers.
Yeah. And
then that's kind of it.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't even make a speech.
No, he hasn't worked out that he needs a microphone in there. I am Exo-Man.
Yeah. There's no real, satisfaction of I mean, you can see obviously that Haas knows those ledgers. So that's it for him.
Yeah.
You can see it in his eyes because Jose Ferrer is such a brilliant performer.
Right.
But, he really has to bring it because the screenplay doesn't do it here, and nor does the direction. I mean, he's really, we're talking about the climax of this big chase scene, this whole thing being him picking up a couple of ledgers. It's not even like a big stack.
No,
what they
it's
at least
two.
could have had would be like, it's like 2 books. Yeah. It could have been like him doing an impressive lifting of 10 giant books or something. But no, he just grabs a couple of books.
Or like a safe.
Yeah. This is disappointing.
You know what else Jose Ferrer brought to it? His own ascot.
Maybe from his own collection.
Yeah. His one he wore on Columbo.
Yeah.
He repurposed.
Well, the rest of the budget was not super big on this one, so
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if performers had to supply their own ascots.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he was cast.
Yeah. And then the last scene wraps it all up. Harry Morgan comes by the garage and, gives some exposition that, first of all, he mentions, this Emil Horst died nearby here. And then he talks about he got an anonymous tip to look in the dumpster outside his building. And the ledgers are there, and Haas is going down, and it seems pretty clear he knows about the extracurricular activities. Maybe not all the details, but he knows that Nick has something going on here, and it basically says, I'm going to have more work for you.
Yeah.
So you can feel the setup of the show.
Right. It's coming together.
Yep. And he leaves, and then Nick and Emily walk off to look for Larry.
Yeah, they got to find Larry, the one loose end.
Yeah. Hopefully Larry would have been a regular character, too.
Yeah, you know what? He could have.
The Hoogie Bear
his
or
street
something.
contacts.
Right.
To go with A. Martinez's cousin, Raphael's official contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kind of possibilities they had for Exo-Man.
Yeah.
Could have been fighting all kinds of people, and I don't know. This is a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah. I mean, definitely I would have wanted to see Raphael be the sidekick, like driving the van.
Yeah.
Because then he could be suiting up while the van's going.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just want to point out that
Larry could be the other assistant with his broomstick.
Yeah, that broomstick could have been used. Larry was very skilled with it.
Yeah.
Could have been his thing.
Right.
This is the same company that made the Captain America movies, Doctor Strange, and say what you will about those movies. We enjoyed all of those. They had a certain excitement to them, and I just hope for more from this. It was I think maybe it was budget or something. Maybe they didn't have as much money for a pilot as opposed to a superhero adaptation. But it was come on. I'd be curious to know more about this. Was there ever any consideration of actually trying to do Iron Man, and they they figured, okay, we got this $6 million man guy has a story that I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
It seems like it would have been logical to just do Iron Man.
Right. I mean, it seems like Iron Man would have been too expensive, but then they tried this. It surprised me that they even tried this.
Yeah.
But then, a year later, they had Cylons walking around, so.
Yeah, and they did. I mean, they found a way to do Hulk and kind of maybe limit the costs on that. Like you said, they could have reused I don't know, reused the Exo-Man shots.
Yeah, some of those for sure.
Well,
you know what else it needed? I mean, the Exo Jazz was cool, but it needed a theme song with lyrics.
Yeah, and I would have even taken it at the end, at the end of this first episode, if they had something to kind of tie everything together and get in some crime fighting and physics references in the song. That would have been cool. Yeah, that would have been a big plus. So there's some elements there that could have worked. And David Aykroyd, he's fine. He's good. Yeah, I liked him. I liked the character. The character had an arc in this episode. And Anne Sheehan is very appealing, and was notably not dumb or she was pretty much what a realistic human being would be.
Yeah.
She was supportive, yet realistic, and
they had fun relationship.
Yeah, they played tennis. They jogged.
They jogged. They made jokes. He made jokes about her smelling bad.
Yeah.
No, they did. Yeah, they seemed like a real couple.
Yeah, I mean, Harry Morgan would have been great.
Yeah,
they could have given him a lot more as the thing went on, and like you said, he kind of knows what's going on. No, if you're gonna have somebody be sort of coy about that, Harry Morgan's perfect. In that thing, and has the gravitas as well. I can see being a kid and watching this and seeing the last 20 minutes and thinking, well, maybe getting into it a little bit in that sense. I can see being nostalgic for it, but we didn't watch this when it was on. I didn't know anything about this, so it's kind of tough for me to embrace it.
Right, and it sounds like that writer didn't want to make a kid's show.
No, I don't think so. Now, having said all that, though, if somebody comes out with a Blu-ray of this with a commentary, maybe a few bonuses, I'll probably buy that Blu-ray. Maybe some deleted scenes.
Yep.
More lab scenes. That's what we need.
You're right. Yeah.
That'll be all the deleted scenes. Will be scenes of David Aykroyd in that lab set. One good thing about the lab is there were a lot of like cool flashing lights in the background.
That's true.
That they were able to bring into the Exo-mobile when that became a thing. So that was cool. I like seeing flashing lights. That gives you a lot of scientific credibility.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
Maybe some whirling tapes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those robots on Wonder Woman, just flashing lights, really.
Yeah.
What is that thing called?
Which thing?
There's a big computer, talking computer.
Oh, yeah. The one that they were using later that gave them like all their information and stuff.
Yeah, and then the little robot that delivers coffee and beeps.
Yeah. Well, Exo-Man. What more is there to say about this? I guess this showing didn't do very well, but it says something that years later, I guess somebody showed it on the weekend.
Right.
It dug it up and
some sort of Universal package
and showed it. Yes, of all the Universal television movies of the 70s, this was one of them.
Yeah.
And it was able to be cleared for syndication. So there's that.
All right, that's Exo-Man, and I'm ready to exit, man. I don't know.
That sounds good to me. Unless we could go on for another 96 minutes and talk about our process of making the podcast. Maybe we could just do a big segment on you editing this episode together. Yeah. We'll put that in the middle of this.
In the middle. Now I'm clicking delete.
I hope Eddie remembered to mark down the timestamps, though, so we can put this together.
Stay tuned after the sponsors for something special.
This episode brought to you by Anchovies. Do you want pizza with that? This episode also brought to you by the Governor's Task Force on Crime. Hey, Mr. Vigilante, we'll just leave this information here, in case you feel like doing our job for us or whatever. This episode also brought to you by Exo Shoes, the latest in fashion brainstorm from the makers of exo suits, exo dresses, and exo girdles.
Hey, Mike here, and lo and behold, our crack research team went digging where only they know how to dig, and they found a demo for an unreleased Exo-Man song. So here it is for your entertainment. Dr. Nick Conrad likes to jog with his girlfriend Emily. He keeps a meticulous log and teaches physics at the university. He always does what's right, even if it means crossing a line. He'd never back down from a fight till he got piped in the spine. Now it's time for some UV light. Exo-Man. He uses science we don't understand. Exo-Man. He has a really cool van. Exo-Man. When he hops, he will land. Exo-Man. Gonna give the man a hand.
malfunction, 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 malfunction.
Larry, give him a hand. Exo-Man. He uses science we don't understand. Exo-Man. He has a really cool band. Exo-Man. When he hops, he will land. Exo-Man. Gonna give the man a hand.
Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.